Hi y'all, I'm Rachel, a full-time beekeeper, and just in time for the holidays, I am going to take you with me to make a beeswax candle from absolute scratch. We're going to use natural beeswax that I've collected from our honey harvest. I'm going to use propolis in one part of it, and I'm also going to use cedar for the wick inside this candle. You may hear Winslow running around. He is gallivanting, and I'm having to keep an eye on him because I have a broody hen. It's the middle of December, yet she is wanting to sit on eggs, so I'm trying to keep a close eye on him while I'm filming to make sure that he doesn't snatch one of those eggs, because he is a little bit of an egg thief. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it anyways. This part isn't gonna be hard, hopefully. I've actually whittled some spoons before, just trying it out. And I'm gonna take some of these pieces with me that I know I can get thinner and flatter and shorter pretty easily. But I'm also gonna take some extra larger pieces that are just, well, that's probably rotten, not that one, but some larger pieces to whittle down to make a wick for our beeswax candle. I actually think that these are gonna work perfect. They're small, already splintering on some sides, and that way we can go ahead and get started on our project. There was no better stick to fight after than the one that I was using for the candle. Right, boys? What are you doing? Got a chicken fanny in the... Hey! How's everybody doing this morning? So I'm here at the honey house, and I'm just gonna do a really small batch today to make sure that I get enough for the candles, but not to where it's gonna take forever for the wax to dry. So here is my bucket of wax cappings. I've had it out here, so if I'm being honest, really right after we extract honey is when we're supposed to really melt down these wax cappings. These got stuck in a bucket and like with the lid on tucked away, so I didn't realize that they were here. Look how pretty that is. It's gonna make a beautiful candle once it's melted down and filtered. I'm starting with about 2 gallons worth of beeswax, which will be plenty. Dump this right in, place it up on our burner, and let's get her lit up. The other crucial extra step I forgot is adding water. So I only added about halfway of the same bucket that I filled up with beeswax of water. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. It's hot water already, and it'll just make the process go a little bit faster. All right, she's lit up. This is exactly what we're looking for. Everything's liquid. Let's get a stick to stir it around. Make sure there's nothing crazy. I have actually gotten what essentially is a pillowcase, and it's actually to an old purse, and this is going to act as our filter. And it's nice if you can get something that will drape around, because whenever the liquid from all this goes in there, it's going to, you know, drag down the edges, so you want to have enough to be able to work with. Oven mitts would work great here, but we don't have those, so we're just going to use some towels. If you have a bag that's big enough and the wax starts to drip slow because it's getting bogged up with all the junk that you've cleaned out of it, you can get one of the parts that isn't saturated with wax and lift up so that the filter that you're using is a little bit more clear of that junk. And that's one of the benefits of something as a filter that isn't the exact size of what you'll need. Gives you a little bit more flexibility. It's cooled down enough. I'm gonna flip it, pull it up. You see all that pretty wax flowing out. I'm going to show you what we're left over with, and it is yucko stuff. I mean, it's really not that bad. It's just what's in a beehive naturally. So this is the sludge that you're left over with. It's kind of a little bit gross looking, and you do not want to touch it. It is extremely hot. There's a yellow jacket that actually got tucked into the mix. But this bag, I'm not going to reuse it. All the fine particles that we're trying to clean out are going to be bogged up in the pores of this. So I don't want to waste it. I am a big proponent of reduce, reuse, recycle. And in this case, we have people coming over tonight and we have a little fire pit out back. So I'm going to throw this in. It'll burn nice and good and it doesn't go to waste. It'll actually be somewhat of my fire starter. Before I get too ahead of myself, I wanted to show you that the wick thickness was whittled down to 3/100 of an inch. And to cut them to size, I just placed a stick across the top and let the top of the wick peek out just a little bit to where I cut. Next step is get these wicks soaked. So I got some olive oil. If you're wanting to do this yourself, keep in mind that I did do this process 6 hours roughly before pouring the wax of my candle. And some people would suggest even soaking them as long as overnight. So I'm actually going to attach the wooden wick to the bowl with propolis. And the inner covers that we use have vents on them. At least once a year, we'll need to clean these out. And when we do that, we get big globs of propolis at the end of it. I'm gonna use it instead of glue to actually attach that wick to the wooden bowl. It's really not a perfect job, but for today's purposes, I just wanna get out some of the propolis to be able to use for our beeswax candle. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna take the heat gun and just get this propolis a little bit more malleable right now. I'm sorry, y'all, there were some dogs barking in the background, so I decided to just do a voiceover. And all that I'm gonna do here is get that heat gun on top of the propolis to make it malleable enough to ball up. In this case, with the size wick that I'm using, it's about the size of 2 English peas mushed together. And I'm gonna put them in the bottom of the bowl, kind of in a Hershey kiss shape. And once I decide where I like them, I'm going to hit the bottom of them with heat again for just a couple of seconds to make it sticky and put them in place so they're nice and secured. At that point, I will run the heat gun on top of the propolis again to soften it up and put that wick in perpendicular, just mashing it down there really good so that whenever it does dry, it's sitting straight up and has good contact with both the propolis and virtually the bottom of the bowl. Now the very top of this will be pure wax, but underneath is water that we had added, which will separate out. So I'm trying to avoid getting any of that. This may be a little cooler than I needed. I let this set up for too long and I have a mess of beeswax. In reality, it's very easy to run into issues and let's problem solve. I mean, if you want like a how-to video, just do it whenever it's like the wax is liquid and pour it right after it settles, just skimming off the top. But in reality, if you come across this issue, what you can do is just take the wax, put it in there, and with your handy dandy heat gun, give it a little heat. Y'all, they turned out so good. Let me show you what we've got here. So this one, I maybe should have done only 2 wicks on this one, but I think it's gonna burn really nice and I am just so excited. My dad, he was like, Rachel, you're never going to be able to whittle the wood thin enough to make it into a wick with the measurements that I had looked up online. And if anybody knows anything about me, I'm really stubborn. So I whittled away. You can see how thin those are. I whittled away until they were itty bitty, just the size. I used calipers on there that y'all saw. This one may be a little thick, but you know what? It's gonna be all right. It's gonna burn. It was soaked in olive oil for like about 6 hours, and overnight probably would have been better, but at the end of the day, whenever these are lit, they're gonna be soaking up the wax into them, and I think will burn just beautifully. And I still have a puck of clean wax. I can get that little bit off the back, but that won't be anything to make another candle now with this. But yeah, here they are. The wooden bowl beeswax candle with a wooden hand-carved wick. I really appreciate y'all watching today and all the support you give me with the likes and comments and just views, honestly. So that's a wrap for today. And don't forget, in a world where you can be anything, y'all be kind. Y'all, I did it! I think they're gonna love it. What y'all think?